Thank you, Sheila, for coming and submitting a presentation. Sheila is the president of Words Media and Communication, Inc., which developed a Dog-Strangling Vine website and a litter prevention program as a community service. For 30 years, Sheila's been deeply involved in her community association. Sheila has had an interest in DSV since childhood and is concerned about its spread. In this presentation, Sheila will discuss her steps taken to develop a local eradication project for DSV. Please welcome Sheila White. And Sheila, if you can come up on stage now, please do. Great. And I will.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll just keep my mic live in case you.
Like DSV. I first learned about Dog-Strangling Vine early in life. And this is, here's where I first encountered it. 33 Murray Avenue, where I grew up. Now the Harris White House, a designated heritage home in the seedy Farquharson community of Agincourt, which became Scarborough and is now part of Toronto. And when I was 4 or 5, my mother took me out to the yard and pointed to Dog-Strangling Vine and said, "This is a bad plant, we have to dig it up." So we did, and thus began my habit of recognizing the plant and wanting it gone. And I still live on Murray Avenue. Now, these are the trees at 33 Murray Avenue. They've been saved because of the heritage designation. I live down the street, and I've observed, as you would all know, the DSV problem of today is much, much worse, to the point of being alarming. We see it in lawns, culverts, drains, curbs, boulevards, hedges, gardens, forests, and ravines. Farquharson community covers 2 large city blocks from Midland Avenue to McCowan Road, Shepherd Avenue East, south to Highway 401. Today, I'll touch on 7 of the 12 heavily contaminated sites I tackled in the western half from Brimley Road over to Midland Avenue. Namely, and here they are, 23 Fulham, a vacant property, 1992 Brimley, a Toronto Hydro-owned property maintained by the City of Toronto, Garden Parquet, publicly owned green space. The public walkway next to 23 Fulham is shown as number 4. Our Royal Canadian Legion branch is site number 5, and another public walkway leading to Midland Avenue is number 6. And I'll talk about site number 7, which is all of Salome Drive. Now, before I go into the individual sites, I wanted to tell you who I contacted about designing a DSV removal project for my small neighborhood. So my points of contact, first I hit the internet and found Ontario Invasive Plant Council and Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. And that was very helpful. I spoke to the hotline and received some information. I made a donation and obtained excellent brochures from the Plant Council. And then I contacted my own city councillor and others, city staff, the 311 service, and a local industry within our boundaries. I approached Toronto and Region Conservation Authority about removing DSV along TRCA's property at Scarborough Bluffs. In an email, TRCA referred me to the city. In October 2020, a few neighbors took our councillor on a site tour and pointed out, among other things, a number of infestations of DSV. 23 Fulham was on that tour, a derelict, unkempt property, vacant, uninhabitable house, and the subject of multiple property standards orders. 75 by 200 foot lot, awash with DSV beside and behind the garage and house and throughout the fence, large swaths of it in the back and side yards. I contacted the owner and received his permission to go and do a full-scale job on the DSV, and that was 10 bags. The main concern is the threat DSV, milkweed's deadly imposter, poses to the diminishing monarch butterfly population. The worst thing is seeing this plant go to seed and continue its spread unchecked. Dog-strangling vine, habitat loss, and climate change are the big 3 monarch killers. Now, a common culprit, and I've stated on this slide, you may have noticed in the location photos, is the chain link fence. Extricating DSV from this type of fencing is incredibly taxing. Chain link fences make it impossible to get to the root of the problem. To truly attack DSV, these relic fences need to be removed temporarily and reinstalled after the contamination has been eradicated. Now, property number 2, the rear yard of a Toronto Hydro substation. Oh, that's another look at the fences. The hydro property. It gives us a good view of a fence overtaken by dog-strangling vine. I'm sure you've all seen it, how DSV climbs and twines, chokes, and entangles. Encountering two fences close together presents an additional barrier to removal. The city's upkeep of Toronto's hydro property doesn't include labor-intensive DSV maintenance. So I've taken on the time-consuming job of unweaving and snipping the plant to the ground and putting it in garbage bags. Then I call 311 and a city employee will collect and dispose of it. You see, I don't $14 for every bag of DSV waste. I'm cheap. I think that's a service the city should provide to any resident who removes DSV. And I might as well mention this response I did receive from the city when I asked for some help to develop a local action plan. First, a significant delay in responding to my email. That was months. And then after being redirected to another department, this email ultimately arrived saying in part, currently, the city does not allow volunteers to manage public lands without city oversight to ensure the safety of the public and proper management of the natural environment. So I continued doing my own thing and tried not to let that bureaucratic response discourage me or annoy me too much. To its credit, Toronto Council approved annual funding several years ago for dealing with DSV in ravines. But Farquharson isn't a ravine, and there's no program to achieve the goal I have. Locally, the city supervised volunteer projects in Farquharson were to plant trees and cut down burdock at our largest park, both worthy endeavors. Our Royal Canadian Legion property on Salome Drive has 4 different contaminated areas of neglected landscaping. A few of us residents went in and tackled the infestation. Our goal is to control, not the dream of eradicating DSV. Disposal was taken care of by the major corporation next door that owns the street, most of it anyway, including the Legion lands. DSV awareness is very, very low. For example, how many residents know DSV is garbage and not compostable? Do they treat it like any other weed? At problem addresses, I drop OIPC brochures in mailboxes. But to get people to care enough to do the work, knowing that their actions can help the monarch butterfly survive, may be the strongest motivator and the underpinning for some sort of campaign. Next, we have garden parquet. Here are some before and after shots, looking so much better. It gives the feeling that the plants can breathe again. On private property, I have 3 practices: ask permission, provide information, and work without the expectation of payment. The difficulties I encounter may be a language barrier, a lack of interest, would rather ignore it, too much work for people, too little payoff, or they do the wrong thing. They pull, mow over, weed whack, or use chemicals on the plant. Residents who volunteer do make things happen. This entire walkway fence was inundated. The work clearing, it was good exercise, very healthy, therapeutic, peaceful, and extremely valuable. Routine advertising, PSAs, media mentions about DSV are needed to attract people to want to get involved. Salome Drive is the home of the Legion and International Waxes, IGI, a global industry. I adopted Salome, and the company carts away the refuse. A Friends of Farquharson success story. I'll let you take another look at Salome Drive. It's quite intensive and extensive. There's another slide of the before and after, and what a difference it makes. But there's our success story. The fence at Garden Parquet, it used to be completely obscured by DSV, unsightly and unsafe, and it's not now because our corporate partner, IGI is the abutting landowner. We raised the company's awareness, made a specific request, and put forward a compelling case for corporate responsibility and action. And IGI has pledged to keep the fence clear and continue as a strong community partner. I was really happy to get our local parks manager to consent to have any DSV bags I leave by the bins and garden parquet carried away as garbage. The challenges for community members and advocates like me is just basically getting help, advancing new ideas and seeing them tried, convincing decision makers that this is important, feeling valued, and having our motivation sustained. But municipalities and agencies are also challenged with lack of time, resources, dealing with competing priorities, overall cost, staffing needs, and this is key, the absence of an influential campaign leader. My wish list includes having the province of Ontario actually funding properly and funding this fantastic council and giving it a proper budget and stepping up and doing what's required. And to enable municipalities to employ a special teams approach, similar to past campaigns addressing purple loosestrife and the LDD moth, or as a city would do now for snow or road emergencies, a targeted strategy of all hands on deck to get it done. Let's recognize that education is crucial and start producing more of it. Make it need to know information. Clipping DSV is something people can do and be rewarded knowing they are saving the monarch butterfly if they only knew. In addition to creating a website, making videos, and posting on Facebook, I created a short piece for councillors' newsletters, which was used by my councillor, but not so much as acknowledged from any of the other members of council or any of their offices. I found that disappointing. They all have e-newsletters. A DSV notice could be in each and every edition, spring, summer, and fall. And to acknowledge, respond, inform. Let me go back to that slide. Acknowledge, respond to, and inform, and help those persons in the community who are keen to do this work is to be able to truly claim to be community engaged. And I'm so glad that's what you're exploring at this conference. I don't have time for showing you any videos, but they are viewable online at finetrapper.weebly.com. Thank you very much for having me.
That was a very, very passionate presentation. Really appreciate the work that you do and encouraging agencies. I know there's a lot of great people at the city working on these issues, but there's also ways to improve, and it's good for those to be pointed out, and appreciate that. And in terms of timing, we've got to move on to the next presentation, but if anybody has questions for Sheila, please put them in the chat or ask her direct message or whatnot. So thank you so much again, Sheila.
Thank you.